I am an extremely passionate and committed human services professional who possesses an in-depth working knowledge of the psychological and sociological aspects of human development. I consider myself to be a cognitive behavioral specialist, believing that making a change in how one thinks brings about a change in what one does. Many shy away from therapy because they feel their situations are either unique or they are fearful, embarrassed, or ashamed to let others know they need help. SciSpot is my way of corralling pertinent personal, professional, and academic information on understanding human development in one place for all to access privately and even share with others. My personal mission statement is, I am driven by divine precepts and an undying passion to facilitate change in the lives of others. What's yours? Let SciSpot guide you through your healing and provide you with many other ways of becoming better today than you were yesterday. Come on in and join me.
Hey y'all, good morning. I'm your man Sabir Aleem and welcome to another episode of SciSpot. Yep, today's topic, the pattern of familiarity. And it's real important, right, that we begin to understand, right, our own patterns of behavior. Our own patterns of behavior. Last week we were talking about attachment versus love. And we're looking at the difference, between what is a love relationship and what is a relationship based on attachment, right? And we talked about the differences. We started looking at some of the contrasting patterns of behavior and thoughts and ideas that we have of what we want in a relationship. So we're not even consistent within ourselves as to what it is that we want. And all of it comes down to not the other person, but ourselves. Yes, each person who you're in a relationship with is responsible for their own conduct, their own behavior, right? But at the end of the day, when we look at ourselves, we have to ask ourselves, was this truly a good decision? What was this decision grounded in that prompted us to be involved with this person? What attracted us to this person, right? And a lot of times, we'll first latch on to the physical appearance of a person, right? Their smile, their figure, their abilities. Are they smart, right? Are they learned? Is it something that comes from them that makes you want to have some dialogue with them? And then, because all the time it's not even a sexual attraction. It's not even a sexual attraction. It's some characteristic that that person is presenting that somewhere along the line is clicking inside of you. It may trigger a thought, an idea that you have within your mind, some fantasy, right? Something within you it has triggered. Now this is not like, your nipples get hard or you get an erection or you feel a little tingle down in the groin necessarily, right? Because again, that would be a sexual attraction. Because some people you are sexually attracted to. But no matter what the attraction, you find yourself involved with this person, and the person who you are involved with, right, now has some kind of connection to your life. And we often turn that into love. This love, this thing called love, where we ultimately wind up spending an insurmountable amount of time with one another, and something happens whereas we get stuck together. And we get stuck together because we have convinced ourselves and or the other person that this is where I want to land. This is where I want to set up shop. This is where I want to establish my foundation. And then we find out later, not. So if this wasn't the complete package, if this wasn't the deal, because, right, we have to understand that when we make a purchase of any kind, right, so when you select a person, you are in fact coming unto a person, right, who you have brought into your web of insanity in many cases, because you really don't know what it is you're searching for. And you can tell yourself all day long, this is what I'm looking for, and you can settle for many things, but is that truly what you need? Because wants and needs are totally different, and a lot of times we convince ourselves that we can in fact make the distinction between both. But continuing to fail in relationships kind of shows us something otherwise. But as long as we continue to blame the other person for why this didn't work out, we'll never see our own reality, and we'll continue to live the life of self-destruction. We'll continue to be in this position over and over again. Over and over again. And we've seen the signs. We've seen the signs all along that this is probably not what I truly want. And when I say we see the signs, it's that we identify the negative characteristics of a person. All this positive stuff we've seen, all these things that we have found attractive about the person is what we hold on to. So that encapsulates the relationship as you want to see it. You don't want to see anything else other than that. You just want to see that, right? And when you begin to see other things, you begin to, I don't know if, what's up with that? Why does something have to be up with that? Why can't I be who I am? You don't have to like everything that I do. But is what I'm doing affecting you directly? Or is it just a thing that you don't like? Is it just a thing that you don't like? And when you look at that aspect of self, you have to ask yourself, are you being judgmental? Are you being self-righteous? Is this in fact part of your problem? Is it in fact part of your problem? Is this one of the dilemmas that you continue to find yourself in because you are judgmental and self-righteous? Is that why you can't seem to have a healthy relationship? As opposed to you picking this person apart, you scrutinizing everything it is that they say and do, all in the name of you being controlling. I mean, this list just goes on and on and on and on. So it's not even the other person. It's you. It's you. It's me. It's not the other person. So I can sit here and say how many relationships I've been in, how many times I've been married, and how many of those have failed. But what it comes down to is, why do I continue to make that same selection over and over again? So when I tell people that I have been married 4 times and I have married the same person, I have, in many ways, because it's the characteristics. It's the characteristics. It's those attractants, right? That are what do I want to say? Drawing me to that person based on my internal needs. Based on my internal needs. So that means that I need to connect with this person to have that certain need met. And I don't always know what the need is. And when you tell people that they should need one another, there's a whole different confrontation that brings about, because people don't want to feel like they need anybody. They don't need anybody, right? You know, males are groomed, right, to ride solo if we have to, right? That we don't need another man telling us how to live, how to do this and how to do that. We don't need another man to tell us that, which couldn't be further from the truth. And you don't learn that until, well, some don't ever learn it, but that's a misconception. Then you have many females, young ladies, girls, who are groomed to not need a man. So we have been so confused by the course that the intended course that we should have remained on in terms of relationship development, but we've been taken off course by so many people's theories, thoughts, and ideas of what a healthy relationship is, and they can't even see that they haven't even made an accurate depiction within their own lives of what a healthy relationship is. So there's a lot of misinformation. But going back to why we continue to find ourselves in the same types of relationships, right? And the pain that comes along with that, that's what we have to address, and that's what we're going to look at today. So there's an article on Psychology Today on the website. I will always send you to the website that I'm referencing, right? Because it's important that you're able to go back and not only listen to this video, because if you're watching it live, you're only going to remember 10% of it. Right? So it's important that you not only go to the article and go back to the video so you can get a full grasp of what has been said, right? But it gives you another percentage. So if it's 10% right now when you're watching, you go back and watch it again, that's another 10% because you learned something new, right? In watching that same video. So each time you watch it, you should be learning more and more and more and more about the content. That's why you can't just watch it once, right? You can't just watch it once, but you go to the article as well. And then the article has other sites that people have visited too that work along with the information that was presented in this site. So here I am. It's an article by Deborah Ward, right? The title of the article is The Familiarity Principle of Attraction. Why we're attracted to the wrong people and how to attract the right people, right? So first thing we have to understand is this, that the article is not implying that these people are wrong about whatever transpired in the relationship. It's just simply saying, if you had a relationship with this person and this relationship didn't work, that means that person is wrong for you and your needs. So you need to look for and attract the right person who is right for you. You are right for them, and they are right for your needs, right? Because you have to understand that. It's important, because this is about addressing your needs, okay? And you really have to look at what does it mean to have needs, to need a person, right? Think about that for a minute. So if you wake up in the morning horny and you grab your phone and you start running down your list, right, of hobbies, right, that you wanna pick up and you know, just, you know, do with, right? So you can do that, right? But that's a need. That's a need. Right? Now, if once that act takes place, right, it's over. You done did your thing. You done spent yourself. It's a wrap. Okay, so now you're back to that need not being right now. It's going to always be a need. That's why you have the running log, right? Now, what's the other need? Do you even know? Well, I need somebody to pay my bills. Okay, so you run down that list again. Bam. There's sugar daddy. You got it labeled SD. All the SDs are the ones who got the money. That's a need, right? Is it really a need? Did you tell yourself it's a need, or is it really a need? And how does that need play into your spiritual, mental, physical condition? Right? For future growth and development, right? Is that what you're looking for? Right? No. Because you've convinced yourself this is what your need is. You need a sugar daddy. You need somebody that can help you pay your bills. And dudes, same difference. You're looking for that cooler who got some paper, right? Who can help you get a car. Who can help you get a pair of sneakers, can help you come up. So we're looking for the come up, right? So that's another need. What's your spiritual need? Oh, well, I go to church. I go to the masjid. I go to the synagogue. Is that spiritual? Is that religion? Or is it both? And if that's your practice, and you're reading, and you're interpreting correctly what you're reading, right? Unless you're regurgitating what the minister, the pastor, the imam is saying. If you're internalizing what you're reading and you're learning, then where's your connection with humanity? Right? Where's your connection with humanity? Especially a partner. And the relationship between you and that partner should be based on the doctrine that you profess to follow. Right? So, where's your need? What do you need? Is this the need for God? Is this the need for spirituality? Where is your connection with another human being? You haven't identified that. See, because you've taken all these other things and saying that these things are your need. But yet still, you don't know why you continue to feel the way you do. You don't know why you still continue to go in and out of various relationships, not having successful relationships, and ultimately winding up in pain because you're not looking at why you're in pain. But you're looking at it, but you're looking at it from the perspective of blame. Like it's the other person's fault that you are in pain because of what they've done. But because they don't know how to handle their own pain other than putting a band-aid on a bullet wound by entering into a relationship with you, right? And trying to heal that pain and trying to fix themselves. And if you're anything like me, I'm always trying to heal somebody's pain. That's who I am. I'm the knight in shining armor. I'm the guy that gets up on the white horse and rides up on you and I'll save you. I'll take that pain away. I'm not like other guys. I'll make you feel better. And I do. And I go in there and I do everything I'm supposed to do. I'm not just talking about sexually. I'm not. Because I am built like that, right? But I'm just saying I'm supportive, right? I'm encouraging, I'm inspiring, motivating, right? And if you don't feel that, then you need to ask yourself about your own need and what is it that you expect for that person to do beyond what they're already doing. And is it even realistic? Right? But that's who I am. So that's the guy that I am. That's who I am entering into the relationship. But if that's not your need, right, then I'm the wrong person for you. I'm the wrong person for you. And you may enjoy it. It may feel good. It may satisfy wants. But what you need, is it doing that? And that's why I always say to people, like you can love a person with whatever it is that you bring to the table. You can love a person, right? But you have to learn how to love that person the way they need to be loved. And that's where the conflict comes in. Because you don't know what I need. I'm telling you what I want when we meet. I'm telling you what I think I need when we meet. But you don't have the ability to satisfy my real needs. You don't. So I need to take a look at why I'm attracted to the same individuals over and over again. So we're going to look at this article. So, to the article. Studies have shown that we are all attracted to what is familiar to us, and that repeated exposure to certain people will increase our attraction toward them. This is a subconscious process that we're not even aware of, or have any awareness of making such a choice. We are attracted to familiar people because we consider them to be safe and unlikely to cause harm. This just doesn't apply to people we've actually seen before or to people who look familiar, but also to people who behave in ways that are familiar to us. For example, if you are a woman and grew up with an alcoholic father, you will tend to be attracted to men who are alcoholics. Not because you find them attractive, but because you find their behavior familiar. Even when someone's behavior or personality is hurtful on a subconscious level, some part of us finds comfort in the familiarity of that behavior. Good or bad, the environment in which we grew up in is the only home we've ever known. This is why it is so difficult for people to leave hurtful relationships. It's easy to criticize someone for staying in an abusive relationship and to blame the person for staying, accusing them of being weak or wanting to be treated badly. But no one wants to be treated badly. It is hard to leave because, besides the issues of having nowhere else to go, we are tethered with bad relationships as much as we are tethered to the past by our subconscious minds. Now, you remember in previous shows, right? Think about it for a minute. And I've talked about this probably in the last, I think probably 8 to 10 shows. The focus has been on, trauma, childhood trauma. And I keep saying to people over and over again, stop saying that children are resilient, that they will bounce back from certain situations. We're all resilient by creation. But resiliency doesn't mean that whatever has transpired in our lives has gone away. It still resides within the confines of our minds, of our spirit, of our spirit, because we have to understand that it also enters into our spirit. It's disruptive to our spirit. And I think we forget that part. That we only can think physically, But when a person is with you, you can clearly see that your spirit is interrupted, Because you're used to doing certain things and you got a certain flow that's been going on. And when this person comes around, calls you or anything, it's an interruption. It just causes something within you, So there's an interruption there, But when you look at where you grew up at, what circumstances you grew up in, and you watch how all the relationships that you were ever in had those similarities, But you look at your home life. You say, well, I didn't have a drug addicted or alcoholic parent, as is talked about in that article. Okay, so let's talk about what kind of parents you did have. Did they live together? How did they communicate with one another? How did they communicate with you? If they didn't live together, what was that relationship like? Because that's the foundation of your thinking. That's where it all begins for how you think and see things, So we parent, in two ways. We do things for our children, that our parents did for us. We do things for our children, that our parents didn't do for us, that we thought our parents should do. So if you thought that your parents should kind of took y'all out, for dinner every Friday and not every, once a month, Y'all get paid, y'all got money, y'all can take us out more often. I'm tired of eating this, that, and the other. If that was your thinking, what do you do with your children? You make sure, no matter what, that they get something every pay period. Even if everything is due. Even if you really don't have it. Because you are so preoccupied with the idea that I want to do this for my children because it didn't happen for me. So you go outside of your financial boundaries. And you make that a habit. Now, not only have you made that a habit within your home, you also solidify the expectation within that child that it happened. So when you don't have the money, you feel bad about not being able to do it. You feel bad about not being able to do it. So now you take yourself through all this emotional upheaval because I really don't have the money, but I have to do it. Or you shorten it. And you condition children to expect a certain thing. And then when they don't get a certain thing because you just don't have it, but you got part of it, then you want to chastise them and tell them that they're not grateful. It's not a matter of me being grateful. It's a matter of the conditioning. You condition us to have, 2 2-liter bottles of soda, 2 pizzas, a couple of hoagies and chips. You ain't get no chips this time. How are we going to eat this with no chips? And then you're saying the child is ungrateful. But this is the conditioning you begin to establish. Now, that conditioning carries on into their adult life. And that's how they deal with situations, right? Regardless of whether you say, well, I just didn't have the money this time, so on and so forth. Children are totally self-centered. And as we mature, we should come out of that total self-centeredness, and many don't. And for those who don't, right, the expectations of you when they enter into a relationship is the same way. And when they don't get what they think that they should have, they act out in many ways. Right? The article, back to the article, by becoming aware of the patterns in your relationships, you will be able to see what exactly you are attracted to. Do not blame yourself for engaging in these relationships or allowing these patterns to continue. Excuse me. You cannot control what you're not aware of. But you can develop awareness and create a new pattern. Look back at your relationships and you might discover, for example, that what all your boyfriends had in common was a controlling nature. They always wanted to tell you what to do and when, where and how. And then think back to your parents. Chances are someone you grew up with was controlling and exhibited those same kinds of behaviors as well. Simply making that connection creates an awareness that shifts your beliefs from your unconscious mind, where you have no control, to your conscious mind, where you can decide what to do. Again, this is an important paragraph, right? Because, and when I say this to people, people get offended. When I say, well, you really don't know yourself, and people get offended and say, well, yes, I do. I do know who I am. I know exactly who I am. No, you don't. You don't, because you don't know the subconscious you. You know the conscious you. And the conscious you, right, is based on your world view, what other people tell you, what other people have told you about yourself, and what you don't want to be. So that's what you're striving to change, right? But it's the things you don't know about yourself. It's the things you don't know about yourself. It's the things that others know, that others see, right? So when you start looking at the need to become aware, you have to want to become aware. You have to want to stop blaming other people for your condition. I can't blame anybody for why I've been married 4 times, right? As negative as it may sound, it's a reality. I've tried it 4 times. I could have did it the first time and never tried it again. But I'm the marrying kind. But until I get a clear awareness of self and why I keep going back to these same kind of people. And again, there's nothing negative about them. It's not about them. This is about me. And when you get my book, Why Are You My Ex?, you'll find out a whole lot more. Right? A whole lot more. I'm still filming it, but listen, it's about me. It's about me. It's not about the other person. Yes, the other person had did some things wrong in the relationship. Yes, they have. But in all reality, they were never right for me anyway. We were never right for each other anyway, so it was 2 good people in a situation that just didn't work. It just didn't work. But going back to the article, the awareness of the unconsciousness, because once you bring it forth, now you're responsible for it. Now you're responsible for it. You have that information, so you can either continue to be in denial about it, you can reject that what you have learned about yourself, or you can say, damn, this is some deep stuff. This is deep. When people say how deep things are, you don't know how deep you really are. The mind contains everything from the point of conception, and you don't understand that. The mind can recall everything that happened when that first spark of life happened. The mind can remember everything that happened in the womb. The mind can remember everything that you have chosen to forget. You don't understand how powerful your mind is. I'm not talking about your brain. I'm talking about the mind. The mind, where everything resides that ever happened to you. So your unconsciousness sometimes is willful. So you do things, we do things to avoid our reality. Because we don't want to deal with those things. We use and abuse drugs and alcohol. We use and abuse other people. We use and abuse other substances like food. We do everything. We become workaholics. We do everything to avoid our reality because our consciousness, our subconsciousness, our unconsciousness is trying to push out to make us aware, but we keep pushing back with those other things because we don't want to deal with that. So we mask it all with glitz and glamour and pontification and all that other stuff because we don't want anybody to see that inner self who is really suffering. So we mask it with other things. And then we become defensive and guarded and we keep people off of us by acting certain ways because we don't want them to see the real us. We don't. I don't care how balanced you think you are. You're balanced based on what your consciousness has presented to you. What your consciousness has presented to you. Not what your unconscious, your subconscious has presented to you. Because your subconscious, listen, sooner or later, people have breakdowns. You know why they have breakdowns? Because their mind has become so inundated with pain and suffering and one issue after the next, after the next, after the next, that it just explodes and you just fall apart because you're so overwhelmed. And you find yourself laying on a gurney with straps on your wrists and medication being pumped into you before you kill yourself. Because the thoughts are there. You just ain't put together a plan yet. So your awareness is really important. Right? It's really important. Back to the article. It takes time and practice, right? And a conscious awareness of what you're doing to change the kinds of people you are attracted to in your life. But by doing so, you can free yourself from the shackles of your past and live the life you want with the kinds of people you want and deserve. And it's real important to understand this, right? We have encounters with one another, right? When we're single, we can see whoever we want, do whatever we want to do, and that's it. When we're looking at relationships, whereas we're seeking to spend the rest of our life with a person, and that's what it is that we want. We need to be stating that. We need to be stating that. And oftentimes what happens is we get involved and we get hurt because we think that the relationship is going in one direction, right? But it's actually going in two different directions. And because there are a lot of assumptions made, right? A lot of unwritten contractual agreements made, we find ourselves at odds, and we find ourselves having ill feelings toward the other person because we thought something that we never asked for and we never got clarity for. So it has to be a matter of looking at things from another perspective, right? And that's what we have to begin to do. Sorry about that, y'all. That's one of the things that I forgot to do, to turn the ringer off. So when we look at where it is we're in that particular relationship, that's one of the things that we have to be clear on, right? We have to be clear on that, right? Because what happens is we begin to entertain one another, and we begin to entertain ideas of things. And some of us have an ideal way of living, and some of us have an idea way of living, and they're two different things. Ideal way of living is based on practice, whatever your practices are, right? Spiritual practices, religious practices, whatever they are, those are the ideal ways of addressing things, right? So we have to start looking at that. Because at the end of the day, we can continue to find ourselves in this same relationship and feel trapped. But we're trapping ourselves. The other person is not trapping us. So we need to just have an understanding of what it is that we're doing in this relationship, and do you establish it before or after? Listen, whatever choice you make, I want you to just look at your patterns of behavior. Your awareness is important here as to how you see the development of these relationships that you continue to find yourself in. Right? So hold that thought for a minute. Hold that thought for 1 minute. I forgot to turn this phone ringer off, so now what I'm going to hear is this beep all the way through, and I'm trying to make sure I get rid of that. So if I turned y'all off on Twitter, I'm sorry. You can catch the show on Facebook Live, or you can follow up on my Daddy's Right Here YouTube educational station. It's a lot to remember, and sometimes I forget some of the small things, and turning this ringer on mute was something that I forgot. Alright, so back to the article. Right? It's real important to come to understand all of these things about yourself, because if not, you're going to remain in the same relationship that you may currently already be in. You may already be in that relationship. And it's time for you to change your thinking. So if you're in a relationship, now is the time to begin to look at some of the things that put you in this situation. And are you going to continue to stay in the situation? It's really important to understand. Is this what you need? Is this relationship what you need? What do you need? Do you just need a warm body next to you every night? Do you just need to see this person's face every day? And remember, it goes back to the previous show, is this love or attachment? Right? And now we're talking about familiarity. So we're talking about familiarity of circumstance, but we're also talking about being attached to a situation that it's just always been there. It's just always been there. You won't leave them because it's things that you feel they need you for. So that's your need, that's your need being addressed, but you're addressing their need because they need somebody to be able to help them pay bills and stuff, because what money they currently make, they can't afford to get their own place. They can't afford to have some of the things they have if you put them out, right? If you moved out, it would greatly change their circumstance, right? It will put them in another dilemma, and you don't want them to feel that. You don't want to hurt them, right? You don't want to hurt them. So I don't leave. So I stay. And I'm miserable. I'm unhappy. Right? So I start finding other things to do to satisfy that need. Right? So I start hanging out with other people. I start, getting different friends. I start going different places. I no longer go to this masjid, church, or synagogue. I go to another one. Right? Because if it's like the Jedi mind trick. Like, I'll go somewhere else just so I can feel like I'm really progressing. I'm really moving forward. I'm really developing in my life. But yet, when I leave that new environment, right, like any other thing, when the novelty of that feeling wears off, you're back to the same reality. You're back to the same reality. So then you find something else new. So as long as you keep finding something new, it causes you to remain unconscious about your subconscious. Therefore, you can't do anything to change. And you stay the same way. You stay the same way. Over and over again. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. Got it framed up and everything. Right? Got little stickers on it for each year that the same thing happened. And it's not about the other person. It is not. You were at fault for remaining. I remember the very first paper that I did in my collegiate studies was why some women remain in abusive relationships. Right? And because I not only was I thinking of my mother, Because my mother left. We were 5 years old. She packed up everything. I think she said she left him a plate, a light bulb, a spoon, a knife, and a fork. Everything else went with her. Everything else went with her. Right? Because that was an abusive relationship. Right? But when I looked at other relationships, when I looked at what abuse really is, abuse is not just the physical confrontations, it's not just the yelling and screaming, it's also the control. It's also the control. I saw people remaining in situations that were just like what was defined in this article. And then I start finding myself, right, living the lifestyle that I was living, gravitating toward those kinds of relationships. And I thought that I had gotten away from that because that's not what I want. But that's what my conscious mind was able to deal with, right? My subconscious never dealt with that. Never dealt with that. So I used to being in environments of conflict and confrontation in some capacity. In some capacity. Abusive situations. And I'm not going to go into detail because that's, because I'm not trying to define my family and to put my family's business out, but I grew up in environments, right, that conditioned me. That conditioned me to be gravitated towards being a savior, being the white knight, being the one who, is going to take away the pain, going to change your worldview that every man is not like that. Right? So being that person is still in conflict, right, with what I wind up getting hold of in terms of a relationship. Because they probably have experienced the same thing if they look at their own childhood. Right? So is it necessarily saying that the conscious is the attracting portion of self, or the subconscious is what's actually connecting? It's like a weird thing, man. Like when you have you, who are one person, having things within you, drawing somebody else to you, and consciously you've termed it as being something else, and you've made it exciting. You say, well, I don't know why. It's just something about her. It's just something about him, right? That makes me feel, I don't know. And you hook up. And the whole time when you're hooked up, you're searching for that part that, I don't know what it is. You're searching for it. And while you're searching for it, time is going by. And you're still together. But that need within you that you still have not identified is still not being met. And the relationship grows old, stagnant. Y'all go nowhere. Y'all do nothing different. Everything is like clockwork. You already know how he's going to react to this. He already knows how you're going to react to that. We already know on Friday we're going to do this. That's what we continue to do, and nothing else changes. Nothing. I was making sure I wasn't sweating because it's a little warm out here now. But you understand what I'm saying? Then I got this umbrella light in front of me to balance out the light from this side, and I got the light over here. So, but anywho, so it's a matter of looking at how long you're going to stay in a relationship that you're in that's unfulfilling. Because at the end of the day, man, you can sit down and say you don't want to hurt somebody else, but you're hurting your own self all the while. You're hurting your own self all the while. And you're not going to do that person who you're with any justice at all. To be with them 15, 20 years and then turn around and get out. It's not going to make any difference. The hurt's still going to be hurt if they love you. Right? The hurt's still going to be the hurt if they're attached to you. The hurt's still going to be the same hurt if there's a matter of familiarity. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same for you. It's going to be the same for them, because if you've been in a relationship for any length of time, there's some good things that you have done together. There's some good things you have learned about that person. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do for you. You have to. And it's really a tough pill to swallow when the other person is the one that develops some consciousness of self and they make a decision that they have to move on. And you're sitting there like, well, what the you know? Because that's going to happen. If it does, listen to what I'm saying to you. If the relationship that you're in is not fully meeting your needs, it's just a matter of time before it ends anyway. Before it ends anyway. That's inevitable, because your needs are not being met. So you're not outgrowing the other person, you're outgrowing your own condition. That's what you're outgrowing. You're outgrowing the immature condition of self, have come into consciousness of self, right, in this particular area, and have made a decision consciously, because that's what the article references as well. Remember? You start making a decision now because you're conscious of it. You're conscious of it now. See, the greatest mistake that we make in relationships is expectations. Expectations. Right? You know, I expect that if I love you, if I do all these things for you, right? If I'm satisfying your needs to the best of my ability based on your consciousness and what it is that you have given to me, and my consciousness of self and what it is that I have learned about you, right? Right? If I'm doing all of those things, what's happening here that we're not going to another level? I'm doing all these things. It's just going to be a matter of time. I lost my train of thought there for a minute because it's two big blue herons just flew by, and they're most wondrous birds. I posted pictures, so I've lost my train of thought for a minute. But when you start looking at the relationship that you're in, right, and you start talking about how much you love and care for this person, right? How much do you love and care for yourself? I mean, for real. Did you ever see a couple together and know they're just not good for each other, and you think that you would be the best fit for that person? I see a lot of times, I see like good sisters, right? From my perception, good sisters, committed sisters, right? And I'm not talking about figure. I'm not just talking about Muslims when I say sisters, right? I'm just talking about a sister, period, right? You know, and you see it, oh, man, it's a really good sister, man. And see this, see that, see this, see that. And she looking, this dude, he's just a beast. He ain't trying to, you know, he's not even. But there's a reason why she's with him. And when we think that we should go after that person, and we go after that person, and that which we saw, which we were attracted to, right, within that idea of thinking, right, and how much better we could do and she could do with me, right, then we get with the person. Then we start learning some things. And what we had to learn in that moment was that was the attraction. My need to save you from him. That's the attraction. That's that familiarity. Because that's what you were looking for. Looking to save somebody from somebody else or some other circumstance. But remember this, where you find a person is where they choose to be. They want to be there. If they didn't want to be there, then a conversation, the thinking would say, listen, I am in therapy to address this. But if that's not the conversation getting, where they are is where you need to leave them, because that's where they want to be. That's where they want to be. Period. Doesn't matter that you're not conscious of your subconscious, and you should be aware of this, that, and the other, because I can't make somebody aware. Listen to what I'm telling you. I have tried that. I've already done that for you. Don't put energy into that. I have done that for years in my life. If that person is not looking at themselves, if that person is not seeking to be aware, to be conscious of the kind of behaviors that they are imposing upon others, which is causing an ongoing failed pattern of relationships, you can't make them do it. I'm telling you. You can't make them do it. You can't even do it yourself. So how can you make somebody else do it? When did you become ready? How did you become ready? Where did your awareness increase? Through pain. Through pain. Through suffering. But was your awareness about the other person, or was your awareness about your own self? And then you beat yourself up and you torment yourself, right? So much to the capacity, so much so that when you do meet somebody who may be right for you, you destroy them. You break down their spirits, you break down their soul, their mind, their consciousness, you break it down. And you bring forth the negative from them. Because of your condition. Because you don't give nobody an opportunity. I've never stopped giving anybody an opportunity. Each time I've had a failed marriage, I've never not gave anybody else an opportunity. As much as I keep saying, I'm not getting married again. That's the last one. That's the last one. Right? As much, but I do it again. Why? Because I'm the marrying kind. If that's what you want to be married, I'm with it. I'm good with it. I like the company. I need companionship. Listen, I go back to this. When the book and the film come out, you understand a little better why I'm with you, right, has already been established. Not necessarily you as the person, but God in his infinite wisdom gave Adam a partner for a reason. For a reason. And you need to understand that. Even if you don't want to accept any religious doctrine, just read the story of Adam and Eve. And ask yourself that basic question. Why did God give Adam Eve? Why did he give him a partner? I'm sorry, a wife. Man and wife. Why did he give him a wife? That woman is significant. It's significant to me as a man. So you have to begin to understand a lot of things about life you're not conscious of. We're not conscious of. If you're not studying human growth and development, if you're not reading self-help kind of guides, if you're not looking at articles like this, if you can't go and ask somebody the question yourself, right? Then go to a page, look it up. Why am I feeling this way about such and such? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? I'm trying to understand this and I'm trying to understand that. But you keep going to all the wrong sources for answers. This information, and I will repeatedly say this information that I get off these sites is not just for me to regurgitate them to you and to share my experience with you, but it's also for me to understand me and to further progress and develop and mature into a consciousness and awareness of my subconsciousness. Period. It's not just for me to sit in front of you and tell you about you. I sit in front of you and tell you about me. I'm an open book. I have no qualms about sharing who I am. None. My strengths, my weaknesses, none of that. I don't have a problem with that. And that's another part of consciousness, right? About self, right? Being okay with that. And even though some people will take it and misuse it, even though some people will take it and throw it up in your face every time a circumstance happens, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about you. Can you do that? Can you talk about you openly? Who do you have that you can talk to about you openly? And if that's not your partner, and I don't mean your partner in crime, homeboy, road dog, none of that. I mean if you are not in a relationship, a committed relationship with a person who you can be yourself with, who you can talk about anything about yourself with. You can share with them your most innermost thoughts, your pain, your suffering, your difficulties, your challenges. You need to get the hell out of that relationship, because you're only going to go outside of them to do it. And that's not having a fully satisfying relationship. It's not. If I can't get from my partner those kind of things, that which I need, so when my conscious, my unconscious, my subconsciousness comes forth, I need that person to help me to move through it. And we're supposed to do that together. But if you just need somebody to hit it every now and then, well, you need to say that. And it's fine, if that's what y'all establish. But don't make assumptions about where you think things are and where you think things should be. Because that's your error. That's your error. And you should have had the conversation. So what often happens is we get lost in the moment and we don't take ownership for our own misdirection. And we stay the course with that person. We continue to cause them pain, suffering, and difficulty. Right? There's a mindset that says that I need to stay with something just because. And a lot of times the just because is grounded in conditioning that was bestowed upon you in many capacities. But happy is happy. Joy is joy. Right? Period. Yours is yours, mine is mine. What makes you happy may not make me happy, may not be my joy, may not be what it is that I'm seeking. Right? Period. It's about what this relationship can do for me to help me to continue to grow. That's where the balance with Adam and Eve. Eve's purpose was Adam's balance, because God, in his infinite wisdom and his observation of Adam's condition, where he was, and he knew you need some balance. And that's her purpose. So when we see the imbalance of ourselves, right, as males, we see our imbalance, right? And we understand that the balance comes from the woman, right? That's where we begin to learn about ourselves and our subconsciousness. Because when one knows their purpose, they know where to go to bring forth certain things. If in our subconscious of self as man, as male, right, we don't know certain things, that's the role of Eve. That's where the balance comes in. But that's a whole different discussion to have. And again, whatever your scriptural preferences are, right, if you have them, that's what you need to go with. But when you start using those things and you start losing those things in the relationships that you're in, then you have to ask yourself, what are you looking for? Because your human condition, your humanness, is going to be affected by everything outside of that. Everything. All of your conditioning, everything that ever happened. That's what you're going to be working with. Regardless of what your source of strength is, where your source of strength lies, at the end of the day, you're conditioned in this life by circumstances. And those circumstances dictate how you live, your worldview. Period. So, I've said a mouthful today. And I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in on Facebook Live, on Twitter Live. For those of you who go to my Daddy's Right Here YouTube educational station, you can be doing anything else on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock than sitting down here in my mouth. And I appreciate and love and respect all of you for doing that. Because again, listen, I'm just a servant. That's all I am, man. That's all I am. I'm just somebody who's trying to fulfill my role, my obligation to humanity with the knowledge that I have as a clinician, as a professional, as a human being, as a father. Listen, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not looking for any stardom as a result of it. I'm not looking for payment for any of those kind of things. This is a gift that I have. This is a gift that I have. right? Being able to reach out to people, being able to, you know, provide some level of guidance. I don't have the power to change anybody. I just give people information and hope that they use the information to improve their lives. And that's all I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that you know, take a course of action for changing your own life. You know, to look at yourself and ask yourself, is this what I want? Is this where I want to be?